Today, we're talking about the leaked Xbox handheld and its release date. The Last of Us director promises some controversy around his new game, and could there be a new Elder Scrolls announced and released this year? Stick around to find out. Welcome, friends, to this week's episode of Good Playing With You, your weekly gaming news roundup. I'm Dan Whitehill, and as always, I'm joined by my bloodthirsty bunch of Matts, Matt Lord.
Hey, how's it going?
And Matthew Moulding.
Hey now.
We've got a lot of great stories, so let's jump straight into the headlines of the week. First up, Windows Central is reporting that Xbox is working on a new handheld, but it's not what people think. Let me explain. According to Jez Gordon at Windows Central, Microsoft is making moves in the handheld gaming space, and Project Kinnan is at the center of it all. This upcoming device will be an Xbox-branded handheld developed in partnership with Asus and set to launch later this year if all goes according to plan. Unlike what some might hope, Project Kinnan isn't an Xbox in the traditional sense. Instead, it's a Windows-based PC gaming device similar to the Asus ROG Ally or the Lenovo Legion Go.
Easy for you to say.
It won't natively run your Xbox library, but you'll have access to Xbox Play Anywhere titles, Xbox Game Pass, PC games, and Xbox Cloud Gaming alongside PC gaming platforms like Steam, Battle.net, and GOG. Microsoft's involvement with Kinnan goes beyond just branding, though. It's working closely with Asus and other equipment manufacturers to refine the Windows experience for gaming handhelds and thus competing with Steam. The company is making major updates to its Xbox app, Game Bar, and overall Windows UI to make the experience feel more quote-unquote console-like. So while there's no official launch date yet, rumors point to the reveal this summer, possibly at Microsoft's Build Conference in May or during the Xbox Showcase in June. And of course, global economic factors and supply chain issues could still shift the timeline. The Verge's Tom Warren confirmed that Asus is behind the hardware, meaning Kinnan could share design elements with the ROG Ally. However, sources suggest that Microsoft is adding its own Xbox-style design flourishes, such as more ergonomic grips and dedicated Xbox guide button. Additionally, the report stated that the next generation after Xbox Series X and S could be released as early as 2027. So, gentlemen, what do you think of this handheld rumor? Are you interested in this device, and how will it impact the next generation of 2027?
I'm interested in Project Kinnan and Kel. That's for sure. I am. We've been waiting for this. I thought it was also funny when I saw this news because just a moment ago, they're like, no handheld. Don't get your hopes up on the handheld. And sure enough, we're getting one practically this year. Really, my hope is they don't. I'm hoping they make it Xbox's own. It's a little bit of a relief that you've said they're going to make it a little more ergonomic, and I'm hoping they have some design trickery up their sleeves just to really make it Xbox own, because the Ally and all those other handhelds, like, they don't really hold a candle to the Steam Deck, in my opinion. So I'm just hoping Xbox really runs with their own unique style with this one. Moulding, what do you think?
I mean, friends of the pod know that I don't care about handhelds. It's not important to me. Unless this one pleasures me orally, I'm not really interested in it at all. But
you never know.
You never know. It's Xbox. It also goes, yeah, they did. Maybe that's what ergonomical means. I don't know. No. With the Switch 2 coming out, man, what a terrible, terrible time for them if they put this out this year. I don't know. I don't know who's in the market for this. I just don't. It's not me. So that's fine. Not everything's for me. That's great. But wow, timing is suspect, and you can see how they, over the past couple years, they must have known this. Obviously, they've known this is on the horizon internally, because they've been really laying the groundwork for this, with their being able to play things digitally anywhere that you want to, anywhere that you're able to. I feel like the sign has been there. It's nice to have confirmation, and then the news that a new Xbox altogether. Most likely their last one, coming out in 2027. That's what I'm more interested in. but that's such a long ways away. Who knows?
That is very true and good points. However, what makes me curious about this one is this is them dipping their toes in the water, especially on these handheld devices, because I think they know this truly is the future. Steam currently has, the market in love with them because their OS is so light and fast and easy to use. And Microsoft really needs to get in the game to be competitive there. And I really think this is their first foray. So it'll be interesting to see. Like, this essentially is Windows, though. It's not the Xbox software. This is Windows software. What will they do to make it more efficient to handhelds? I think it is a little surprised that this is not like the pared down Xbox Series S that we had kind of hoped for. This is a Windows machine. But then it kind of makes me wonder if this goes well, the boxes that are underneath our TVs in 2027, are they the same thing running the same software? Meaning the next generation 2027 Xbox will have the Windows PC software that will allow us to use GOG and Steam and stuff like that on our TV console games. That is where I think this could potentially be heading, and why I think it's so important. You guys think I'm crazy or what?
No, I'm with you. I think that's totally accurate. I think a lot of consoles, like, I wouldn't even be surprised if Sony comes up with their own little OS setup. Like, I think really we are going towards more of a computer machine. I think that's just where it makes sense that everything goes. People have games on so many different platforms and people want access to them. It just makes sense to me to do that. And did they say, Dan, like, it's not just streaming though? Yeah, like, you're going to be able to download and install games to the machine.
Right, but it will be your PC games from Microsoft Game Pass.
Okay.
It will not be your Xbox games from your Xbox console.
Huh. So you're going to be forced to use Game Pass.
Yes. Yeah.
Huh. That's kind of an interesting caveat, to be honest. Yeah. Because, like, people may not want to get Game Pass just for a handheld, so that's going to be a bit of a deal breaker for some people.
It was probably a requirement for them. They were probably like, we're not going to do a handheld unless you have to sign up for Game Pass to use it, I would guess. I mean, from a marketing finance standpoint, like, that's a no-brainer, I would think, in a corporate side of things.
No,
and the reason why I think you're correct is because Microsoft sees Xbox, the old school Xbox that we're using, traditional console, going away. They know that people aren't really going to buy an Xbox console next generation. If you can get your games on PlayStation, you might as well go there. And I think they're going to try and do this all in one device where they control the Xbox experience and Xbox games on third parties or OEMs, original manufacturers of this stuff. And I think that's where they see the future, is because they really just want people on Game Pass, and they see the subscription and Game Pass in their future. And the key to get them on there is the software. And that's what they're building here. That's my guess.
It makes sense.
But it's scary.
Has anyone ever considered, like, Game Pass being the only thing that Xbox would really provide? I guess, like, is that a world where you see it going? Like, Xbox is just like, here's the Game Pass, you better get it, otherwise.
Well, they're going to publish their games and stuff on, like, PlayStation and PC.
Yeah, that is also in the.
I wonder if this is also a carrot to get other publishers and developers to use Game Pass too, because then they have a bigger install base. Maybe they'll get bigger games. I don't know.
Yeah.
I need the screen. If I were to purchase it, orally pleasure aside, I would need the screen to be really big, and they would need to figure out a way to, because some of these PC games you can't play with a controller. They are made to play keyboard and mouse. So how are they gonna do that? Are they going to force a lot of these developers, like, if you are going to be on our system, you got to have a controller, a way to play it with a controller? Because a lot of these RPGs that I really love, like a Baldur's Gate, is better to play with a keyboard and a mouse than it is to play with a controller. So that's something to think about.
On that note, Malding, that is where Steam also has, they could take a copy out of Steam's playbook, because the Steam Deck actually has a whole dedicated page where you can download community layouts for games that don't have a specific controller type. And you
Interesting.
can go in, download it, and it'll all be mapped for you. And you can see which
Oh,
one
wow.
is
I
super
had no idea.
popular. I
Mhm.
know. It's genius. And like
Oh.
you can see like, oh, this controller input has 10,000 hours on it, so it's got to be good. And you just load it up. So I'm hoping they do something like that.
Well,
Yeah,
also
that
the
would be
potential-
essential, I think.
Yeah, and also the future of games. Real quickly, I have one more little story before I hand it off.
No.
But I wanted to bring this up because I was so split on what this could mean for the future of video gaming, whether it was nothing, something, stupid, good. So I wanted to get your guys' take. And this is Xbox unveils AI-powered Copilot for gaming. I got this off of Xbox Wire. Xbox is introducing Copilot for gaming, an AI-driven assistant designed to enhance the player experience by making gaming more seamless, personalized, and engaging, announced the official Xbox podcast by Fatima Kardar, Xbox Corporate Vice President of Gaming AI. Copilot for Gaming aims to help players get into their favorite games faster, improve their skills with expert coaching, and stay connected with friends and communities. Built on the principles of capability, adaptability, and personalization, Copilot for Gaming assists gamers in various ways. It can recommend games based on individual preferences, streamline setup processes, and even provide in-game advice and guidance to players to help overcome difficult challenges. Kardar emphasized that the AI will only step in when needed, ensuring a non-intrusive experience where players remain in full control. A key focus of Copilot for Gaming is reducing time spent on non-play tasks like searching for games, downloading updates, finding information on the web, or figuring out where to pick up after they've taken a long break from a game. The AI assistant can recall progress from past sessions, suggest relevant content, and offer situation-specific tips to help players overcome obstacles in games. Though the Xbox Insider Program players will soon be able to preview Copilot for Gaming on mobile, with future expansions planned for other devices. So what do you guys think of this? Would you use it?
I hate it. I hate this idea. Am I hearing this correctly, that they're saying that if I'm involved in a game and let's say I'm having trouble with a puzzle or something like that, that AI will pop up and say, looks like you're having trouble with a puzzle. Like, do you want some help? Like, is that what it's saying? Is it like
It's saying
Clippy? Are we going to have Clippy back?
That was my concern, but they're saying it's non-intrusive and you're in full control. So my guess is you would trigger it and you would say, I'm having trouble. What do I do next?
Connect
so it wouldn't jump up unless you said something.
I still hate it. I still don't. I don't like that at all.
I mean, it's definitely the new age strategy guide. Like,
Yeah,
I'm not mad about that. Like, sometimes it really depends on, because I know it's saying it's not intrusive, but it'll probably be intrusive, and so it's just like, you know, it's going to be tiptoeing a fine line there. So I think it is cool. Like, I like the idea of like getting help with something. Like, I know Sony's kind of done it. They have that like little guide thing where you can like look at different sections, but I don't think that is easy enough to access, to be honest. So this could be cool, depending on how it's implemented.
I agree. And that's so funny. I'm split right in between with you. It depends on the implementation. Molding, I think you're correct. If it's jumping in my face like a Clippy, I'm scarred for life. It's awful. It's a nightmare. It's intrusive.
Or like Google. Now you Google something, you don't get search results right away. You get the AI assistant just popping up there. Yeah.
But then, Lord, you touched on some good points. It's like, you know, I am so sick of having to look up where a certain sword is or a certain gem is in these games, and I'm spending my time pausing and looking it up online and that sort of stuff. If I don't have to go to my phone and I could say, you know, hey, Copilot, please tell me where I could find this soul gem and Avowed on this level, and it'll take me right there, or it will like explain to me where I need to go. Boy, that would really save me a lot of time. So that could be amazing. On the flip side, Molding, if it takes up too many resources and it's too intensive and suddenly my game starts slowing down and it's harder to toggle between games and stuff like that, man, I am going to be so out and so annoyed, especially if I couldn't disable it or something like that. But then it's like the whole benefit of being able to be suggested new games and having it like if I'm saying like here's what I'm in the mood for, because here's what annoys me about the store right now is it's so stupid. It tries to sell me stuff that I've already bought, and I'm like, leave me alone. Don't try and sell me this edition of this game because I already bought that and the expansion and all that stuff. The store is really stupid, and it could use some help, kind of suggesting things and finding things. And really, Game Pass would be nice because I don't have to pay anything extra. So if they used this to help me find something in Game Pass, so I'm just like a ping pong ball between the two of you. I can see both sides of it, you know.
Oh, and this is just going to come pre-packaged with, like, when does it come as an update? It said.
Well, it's for the Game Insiders program, which I never, I was in it until there was one day I couldn't play a game. And it was because I was on the Insider Ring testing program or whatever. And I was like, that should be an instant fail. You never should have a situation. So I unenrolled for the Gaming Insiders immediately. But this is for a further tier inside the ring. And it sounds like they're going to be launching this thing on your phone first. So it's not going to be taking up engine resources, at least initially. And they're going to look and see how people are using this sort of thing and then kind of tailor it. But it seems like a customized gaming AI, and that, you know, could be cool as long as it doesn't, you know, take over your machine or your resources.
I mean, if they would have had this when I was a little kid, my parents would have saved so much money of me calling the Nintendo hotline trying to figure out how to beat a Final Fantasy boss.
And what was the number of Nintendo? Money. What was the number?
1-206-885-7529.
There you go, Malding.
You know his family must have spent a lot of money on that hotline.
If he still knows money. And that's when long distance was not free. So, yeah. Sorry, Mom.
Well, speaking of kids spending their parents' money, Malding, you had a story on Pokemon Go.
Oh, yeah. So this week it was announced that Pokemon Go has a new owner. And I took this from Ethan Gotch at Kotaku. Pokemon Go is sold to the Saudi government. One of the most defining games of the last decade, Pokemon Go, now belongs to the Saudi Arabia government. Mobile game maker Scopely, which was purchased by the Saudi-backed Savvy Games investment group for $4.9 billion back in 2023, announced its purchase of the hit game along with the rest of Niantic Labs' game business for $3.5 billion. Niantic CEO John Hanke says in a press release announcing the deal, quote, "I firmly believe this partnership is great for our players and is the best way to ensure that our games have the long-term support and investment needed to be forever games that will endure for future generations." The Pokemon Go deal is part of a number of big investments Saudi Arabia has made into the gaming world, including buying small stakes in Nintendo and EA games. These efforts, as well as recent attempts at sports washing, have drawn criticism over the country's abysmal human rights record, including the reported killing of Washington Post columnist Jamal Khashoggi back in 2018. So my question to you, gentlemen, is ownership of a company or ownership of a game, would it change how you play? Would it change anything? Would you not play a game because of who owns it?
It's definitely like the Saudi government. Why?
Yeah.
Like, what's the deal? Like, why are they trying to gobble up gaming resources? They know that data mining's too good. They're like, we got to get in on this data mining.
Possibly. They do already own some other stuff, like I think it was Monopoly Go, and there was a Star Trek game that this conglomerate group already owns. So this is kind of just adding to their portfolio a little bit. Niantic Games started as a Google, owned by Google under the Google umbrella, and then was kind of rolled off onto its own, and then now purchased by the government of Saudi Arabia. I don't know how I feel. I mean, Saudi Arabia being an out gay man, and they do have an abysmal human rights record.
True.
I'm not a Pokemon Go player either, so it's not like they bought rights to Pokemon altogether. It's just this game. I don't know if it matters to me. I want to be a good concerned citizen, but I don't know that I change my buying habits because of something like that. What about you, Dan? What do you think about that?
Well, yeah, I don't know. I think about the companies that own them and the things that they do. I mean, there's a reason I'm not running out and buying a Tesla, that's for sure.
Yeah.
But then with Saudi Arabia, it's like, well, I just have to be educated more on their human rights abuses to really know. but if a game is really good, man, that's hard to say no to.
Yeah.
You know, so it's tricky. It would be a situation by situation and a case by case basis, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
But I would consider it, but I'm not saying it would completely 100, swing me.
Yeah, I mean, keep an eye on that terms of service, because that thing might get updated, to say the least.
Yeah. I mean, we read any of those anyway.
Yeah, like Pokemon Go though is one of those games that it had its real flash in the pan. Like I remember being at E and seeing all these people walking up and down the street with playing Pokemon Go. So I just don't think it has that same sort of clout like it did maybe 4 or 5 years ago. I don't know, when was that, Dan? Like 2020?
It was around there.
No, it had to be 2000.
It was pre-pandemic.
Yeah,
so I have a distinct memory of friend of the show Brendan and I walking from our apartments to the ArcLight to find Pokemon along the way, like the first couple days after it was released. And there was a gym, I think is what they were called, right, in Pokemon Go, gym at the ArcLight here in Los Angeles. And there was a group of, I kid you not, 25 to 30 people hanging outside playing Pokemon Go on that first few days. It was an experience.
Lord and I had an office building at Universal Studios that was next to the Universal Studios sign, and that was a resource thing you could spin, but you could only get to it if you were either outside or if you went to my boss's office. So I'd wait till he wasn't in there and then go all the way over to the window of my boss's office and try and spin so I could get my resources on a daily basis.
That is awesome. No, there was some great moments that came from that game. I gotta say, like, it was like walking down the street and seeing everyone playing and kind of being very social, I thought was a pretty magical time in gaming.
Yeah.
So I would love to go back.
It was a pretty novel game too. Like I had never seen anything like that before. It was cool, but it really wore off very quickly. Like, but after I'd seen it, I was like, okay, I've seen it.
But the thing is, it's still got to have a base here that they're catering to. It's still got to be making money. It's not like the Saudi government is just throwing money, at these things. They're making an actual investment, and I assume they're going to want something out of it. It's like them buying the PGA golf tournaments and stuff like that. Like they are in it for the long haul, would be my assumption.
Yeah,
3.5 billion.
Yeah, I was gonna say there's no shortage of money getting going to be put into that. So that'll be we'll see. Like interesting how it plays out for them, and see like if people do end up turning away from the game.
Yeah, agreed.
I don't think people will.
But speaking of potentially turning people away from your game, Neil Druckmann from Naughty Dog made some interesting statements. Lord, you had this story.
Oh yeah, this is very interesting. Let me get my glasses on. This is from Games Radar's Dustin Bailey. So Intergalactic, the Heretic Prophet is a game about faith and religion, which Neil Druckmann jokes will surely get less hate than The Last of Us 2. So here we go. Druckmann spoke with Intergalactic's fictional timeline with 28 Days Later writer and Civil War director Alex Garland as part of Sony's Creator to Creator podcast series. And this is in quotes. I joke about this with the team, Druckmann said. With The Last of Us 2, we made certain creative decisions that got us a lot of hate. A lot of people loved it, but a lot of people hate the game. Dan, you loved it. And then who gives a shit, Garland quipped. Exactly. But the joke is like, you know what? Let's do something that people won't care as much about. Let's make a game about faith and religion, Druckmann concluded. So that is like this back and forth. And it just, for some reason, that just like rubbed me the wrong way. I don't know. I like read it and I was like, I feel like he's like trolling, and it's like trolling faith and religion is like such low hanging fruit. It's like, don't you just want to make a good game at this point? Like what? There's something very strange about this interaction. What do you guys think?
I think it's a little too early to tell. I think, look, we are on the internet. We are in podcasts and YouTube and all that stuff. We know hyperbole. And this to me sounds like just hyperbole. And I think once we see the context, once we get the information, once the game finally, we've seen the initial trailer, which looked interesting, but we don't even really know anything about the gameplay. And once we get that, provided they're not burning crosses, I really doubt that it's going to be as controversial. They're just trying to build hype and conversation, we'll see it.
I don't know. There's something about it. I feel like Druckmann wouldn't like I feel like could do it all the way and just be like, I mean, the game is called like Heretic Prophet, so I figured it was going to have something like religion related, but I'm just like, it just seems very strange. Like he's like trolling, which I'm like, why troll? Like, can we just get like a good game with good gameplay? Like, or are we just going to troll?
I think he is just as much a developer as he is a marketer. And I think this is the first step of marketing his game, even though it's years out. Like, do we know? Did it say when it was? I can't remember from that.
No,
PlayStation
it's
Direct.
away.
If they even had an announced date.
Dan, can you
I don't think
remember?
they did.
I don't think they did.
There wasn't a date yet.
They did either. But I think I absolutely think that this is what that is he's stirring up a little controversy to help get some people interested in it. Like, I would be so curious if there was, after this comment, if there was a bump in the trailer being viewed on YouTube. Like anything like that where they can juice it a little bit is probably what this is. So I'm actually going to play Last of Us 2 this week, and I'm super excited. And I know Dan loves this game and is very excited for it. So, I'm really interested in how I'll think about it.
I'm concerned that I might have overhyped it because I did that to Cult of the Lamb. I loved that game, talked too much about it, and I ruined your whole experience. My guess is at the end of the day, you're going to be texting me like, the game's mid, whatever. It doesn't I don't know what you're talking about.
I mean, I might say that just to annoy you and just to get your goat. And the Cult of the Lamb thing, you did overhype it, but I should have known going into it that it wasn't the game for me. So that's partially my fault.
No, well, you're a little overdue on the Last of Us 2 playthrough molding, but we'll let it slide.
Maybe I'll wait for the third remaster.
Well, they're not making any other ones, so you might as well wait.
Yep. That's true.
Yeah.
Well,
we'll see.
I'm excited for it. I'm excited. I'm going to probably try it this week. We'll see what's up.
Yeah.
Nice. Well, speaking of games that are actually being remade, Elder Scrolls. We've got a delicious rumor I wanted to tell you guys about and get your opinion on. This is an article from Wesley Yinpool at IGN entitled, "The Elder Scrolls 4 Oblivion remake will reportedly be revealed soon and releasing not long after that." So I'm pumped for this one. Now, this comes, again, I've got to couch this as a rumor, but it comes from the same leaker, Nate the Hate, who revealed the announcement date of the Nintendo Switch 2. So he's kind of been right on the money a few times before. He tweeted to say the Oblivion remake will be revealed either this month or next month, which VGC corroborated. The release window is slightly fuzzier, though. Nate the Hate said likely before June, but VGC said it could come out as soon as April. The rumor of the game started in January of this year by a former employee at a video game support studio, Virtuos, who talked to a leaker named MP First. Microsoft declined to comment when contacted by IGN about the story. According to MP First, though, Virtuos has remade Bethesda's much-loved open-world role-playing game in Unreal Engine 5, which suggests a significant rework rather than more of a straightforward remaster. Gameplay changes were also allegedly detailed in the conversation, including tweaks to stamina, sneak, blocking, archery, hit reduction, and the heads-up display. So it sounds like a lot of work potentially going on this rumored game, and it might be coming out soon. Are you guys excited at all? Will this help, with the wait to Elder Scrolls 6, or are you just like, I'm going to hold out? What do you think?
No holding out. I just peed my pants a little bit in excitement for this. I'm so excited. We talked about this a couple weeks ago. Man, it's such a fun game. When you step out of that cave at the very beginning, now it's kind of because we've had Skyrim and because we had some other huge role-playing games like this, that's a little bit lessened, but wow, that first time stepping out of that introduction cave into this brand new world when you didn't know anything, what to expect. Oh, I can't wait to even recapture a smidge of that back. So yes, super pumped. I'll have it day one.
I'll be sticking with Dragon Age: The Veilguard. Thank you very much.
Why the shade?
I know.
You get it free on PlayStation.
I couldn't help myself. Yeah, I'm very excited. I think this is like we kind of touched on it. I didn't expect it to be launching so soon. You said April?
Yeah.
potentially.
Well, potentially as early as April, but to be honest with
that's
you,
early.
Make the
That's
Hate was like announced soon and more like
Yeah.
June. And there's a conference. It could be the shadow drop of the summer conference for Microsoft. That's where my mind goes. Not that I have
Oh.
anything to corroborate that, but
Ooh.
that sounds much more likely.
I would love that.
Shadow
That would
drop
make me
in
even
June.
happier. Oh,
Yeah,
Shadow Drop
Drop.
would be just
yeah,
the icing on
like
the cake.
made
That'd be
for
great.
molding.
Seriously, I was gonna say Malding. You're like
Yeah.
ready. Then.
Shadow drop Oblivion right on my face, and I'd be so happy. But Dan, you said you're excited for it, and I'm kind of shocked at that. I wouldn't have thought that this would be something that you would be jazzed for at all.
That is good. I mean, that is true. I think the one thing that made me, I didn't go through all of the details of the article. I just kept it like kind of light. But when they're talking about how they're reworking it, there were more explanations of like completely overhauling archery, Unreal Engine 5, and these sorts of buzzwords and things like that. Like they completely detailed the sneaking system, and it sounded to me a little bit more like Assassin's Creed with like the marks so you know when people see you, as well as they did mention that some of the combat would be more like Soulsy, so that made me a bit nervous. But they haven't, I doubt they'll go too far in that direction. But the buzzwords, terms, and the descriptions they were using in this article does have me really piqued. And if it's going to be coming on Game Pass, then I have nothing but hype and love for it because I won't be paying for it.
Yeah. Oh, I'd pay for it. So this is a game I would even pay for. So
very nice. Yeah,
horse armor. I'm here for the horse armor.
Yeah, imagine the microtransactions now. Whoa.
Oh my gosh. I know.
That will definitely be interesting. We'll have to wait and see. And then speaking of games coming out that we might have to wait and see on, which I'm actually surprised to hear about, is Warhammer 40K Part 3. Lord, you have this.
Yeah. All right. So check this out. As soon as I find my stories back here. So this comes from GameSpot's George Yang. Warhammer 40K Space Marine 3 is officially now in development. Focus Home Entertainment and Saber Interactive have announced that Warhammer 40,000 Space Marine 3 is officially in development. Platforms were not revealed yet, but more information will be provided at a later date. An announcement trailer was released, but it doesn't show any gameplay or footage at all. It's just the title and key art of protagonist Captain Titus playing for 16 seconds with the sound of the rain in the background. For now, Focus Home Entertainment Deputy CEO John Burt said that players can look forward to an immersive campaign, multiplayer mode, and more innovations. The next entry will also introduce even bigger large-scale battles. He also said that Space Marine 2 will continue to receive updates in the coming years. Now, you guys, is this like a little bit of an early announcement? This game hasn't even been out for a year.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. Space Marine 2 just came out, didn't
it? For sure. It just dropped like probably 4 months ago.
Did you ever find it on physical?
Oh, I never found it physical, but I did get it on. I got it on PC. And I have a confession to make. I didn't really like Space Marine 2.
What?
Here's the deal. The kicker
you didn't say anything, so I'm not surprised. You didn't say anything.
I know.
Which is weird.
But yeah, exactly. And the reason why is it is way heavier co-op-y than I realized. Like you need to have two other little companions with you at all times. And I was just playing with the computers and they were like dumb. And I was just like, this is like not very cool. Like I want to go solo. I don't want to have these two dudes just trailing me. And that kind of threw me off. And everything leads back to, it reminded me of Helldivers. Like they definitely were trying to do some sort of like Helldivers connection. And I was just not into it. I did not like it's forced co-op. And that's just not my speed. I just want to go solo. So I don't know. I'm like a little bit like if it's more of that, I don't know if I'm going to be as pumped. I mean, trust me, they nailed the atmosphere. Everything about that game was stellar, very true to the universe, but something about the gameplay didn't resonate with me with that one. But I just think it's very odd that they're announcing this the third part 3 so early. I mean, it's barely been out, and they're like, here's 3. Like, I don't know if they're trying to ride the the excitement wave of the second one, but it seems a little I don't know, like desperate to me. They're like, we got to get the third one out like right now. Yeah, what do you guys think?
It's definitely early for sure. I know that Warhammer has a huge following. I think really in the UK too. I think there's a lot of Warhammer fans, and there are tons of Warhammer games from different studios, like just a ton of them, and I can't keep them straight. I don't know what one is from. Different. Yeah, and there is one that just came out on Game Pass, Rogue Trader. That's kind of a Baldur's Gate-esque sort of top-down strategy game that I'm interested in trying out, but that world has never really captured my attention. I need more magic. I know there is some magic. I want a more magic heavy thing, but maybe I'll give this one a try, and maybe I'll fall in love with the Warhammer world and want to try these other ones out.
Yeah.
Well, moving on. Speaking of giving things another try, Sony Pictures greenlights another Resident Evil. Molding, you had this story.
Yeah, Christopher Livingston from PC Gamer is where I took this one from. The Resident Evil movie reboot bidding war is over, and the winner is Sony. Sony has won the bidding war for the Resident Evil movie reboot, the same studio that released the first 6 Resident Evil live-action movies, plus the Jovovich-less reboot that already happened once, Welcome to Raccoon City, in 2021. They came out on top, keeping it out of the eagerly clawing hands of Warner Brothers and Netflix. The new Resident Evil reboot, coming just 4 years after the first reboot, is being written and directed by horror's new hotness, Zach Kreger, who also wrote and directed Barbarian from a couple years ago. It's not hard to understand why Sony would want to hang on to those Resident Evil rights, despite not a single one of its Resident Evil films scoring above 38% on Rotten Tomatoes. The series has been monstrously successful financially, collectively earning over $1.2 billion at the box office. They wouldn't be able to afford Pokemon, unfortunately. The film is also being produced under Sony's Columbia Pictures label this time around, not Screen Gems as the earlier films were. This may indicate a larger budget than the franchise has historically had. Columbia is the same label as the Spider-Man universe films like Venom, Kraven the Hunter, and Morbius, so not sure if that's a good sign or not. Despite not having a script or a cast, the Resident Evil reboot already has a release date, September 18th, 2026. Now, Dan, I know you are a big fan of the Resident Evil movies.
I do love them.
You love terrible things. Is this a movie you'd be in line for when it comes out?
Day one, for sure. I thought Barbarian was low budget, but it was well done and creepy. And while I didn't really love the ending, it did show that the director could be a little bit savage, sneaky, dark, and gross. And that's what the series needs. I'm all for it. And come on, we grew up with it. How can you say no? And yes, the Mila Jovovich movies are awful, but you can't admit, like, when they come on cable, you can't turn them off. I mean, they're just such good background material. They are a guilty pleasure. I even liked the reboot that nobody else did. I was the one person that saw it. I'm in day one for sure.
I'm in day one. No question.
Yeah?
I love the Resident Evil movies.
Oh, Mila I thought Dan was our huge fan.
Oh, no.
You are.
When I worked at GameStop, whenever those movies came out, we'd all gather, the whole crew, and we'd go see it at the theater. So I have a lot of good memories of going to the movie theater and seeing those. And I honestly, I feel like the first movie gets a lot of hate for no reason, because that one's pretty good. And yes, I agree with you, Dan. The ending of Barbarian, a little bit of a missed land, but like that movie was batshit crazy. So yeah, I'm excited to see what he can pull off in a zombie universe, and it could be really cool and really fun. Did they say who was going to be starring in this one, or no?
No cast yet has been revealed for it. It's still a couple years away, so it's got some time to cook.
Who potentially could you see being cast? Who would you want?
Ooh, Anna Taylor-Joy. I could see her rock. I could see her rock in it.
That is so funny. That's exactly who I was going to say.
Really? I just pulled it out of my brain right now.
Man, I must have telepathically hit you with that one, because I was like, I was gonna say the exact same thing. That's so funny. Dan?
Oh, that's great.
I'd go
Real
more
fast.
Sydney Sweeney. I'm more of a Sydney Sweeney kind of guy.
Oh,
And Taylor
okay.
Joy, I think she's a great actress. She's a little scrawny for me. I need someone scrappier. Sydney's could punch some dudes out and shank some zombies and and look great doing it.
Now, is there a game you'd want them to focus on, to whatever the word is, to adapt?
Oh, I got one. What if they did Zero on the train? Could you imagine?
That could be good.
That could be
They were
cool.
stuck on the train for too long.
Yeah.
They were. I want justice for 6. Resident Evil 6 has never gotten justice. Yes, it was overblown, over budget. It's all action, but it's fantastic. Its cast of characters is huge. And it introduced Jake, Wesker's son, and we never saw or heard from Jake ever again in the entire series, and I thought he was a fascinating character. That one, with their intersecting stories from all the different groups and all the different explosions, without a doubt, is make the best Hollywood movie, I say Resident Evil 6.
Good.
And plus it has the artwork of the giraffe getting a
blowjob. So true.
Good aesthetic.
Okay, we got to move on here. But so we got to move on to the listener emails of the week. First topic of the week. Molding, I believe you had a question for us.
Yeah, this is me. Last weekend was actually International Women's Day, so I was curious to hear from you guys who your favorite female video game characters are. And I'll start it off with my first one. There was no question in my mind. It's Morrigan from Dragon Age. I absolutely love this character. One, she's a badass. She's got attitude. She's magic, and I love that. She's also an apostate, so she doesn't play by the rules. And her first iteration in that first Dragon Age game was the only time you could play as her, I'm pretty sure, out of the 3 games or 4 games, whatever. And she was super fun to play. I loved her mom, voiced by Star Trek Voyager captain. Loved that. I loved everything about her. And then we get some Dragon Age Veilguard. She was in that a little bit. I don't want to spoil anything for anyone who's still going to play the game. You find out a big reveal about her. I didn't really care too much about it. But I've always loved her. So I think she's a great female character in games. Just kind of no nonsense, kick ass. What about you, Lord? Who do you think?
My first pick was Heather Mason from Silent Hill 3. I just think
that
she's
was
a
an
total
interesting one.
Yeah.
But why? You thought she was badass? I thought she was kind of weak.
I mean, she's definitely brave. She kind of is a little bit weaker, but like at the very beginning of the game, you just stroll in with an Uzi and you're just kind of like blasting monsters at a theme park. I honestly feel like the Silent Hill 3 intro is so genius. And I just think she's just like a wild card character that, honestly, after Silent Hill 2, I did not expect. And I recently just like played an emulator of it and it's fresh in my mind. And I liked her as a character. She was cool.
That's fair.
Yeah.
Good answer.
That was my pick. I have a couple like horror game picks. So there's a theme going on here.
Right on.
Dan.
Well, mine actually, I'm going to do my 2 together, and that essentially is because it's Abby and Ellie. They are 2 sides of the same coin. They are amazingly well-written female characters that are tough and brave, but scared, and they're complex, and they've got relationships and they've got love stories, both of them, and they are so identical, and yet because of the way that they met, they absolutely are diametrically opposed and couldn't be bigger enemies. And you can't help but think, with everything that's similar in their whole lives, had they met in any other circumstance, they could have been best of friends. Because their stories are so parallel, or lovers, who knows? I wouldn't rule it out. Their stories are so similar, and it's just the way the characters were written, the depth. They're both, of course, beautiful, and it doesn't hurt that I absolutely adore that game. It's one of my favorite games ever. So of course, that's going to be my answer. How can I not say those 2? I think I
can't wait brilliant. To see if I agree with you in these.
Well, see, now I'm really oversold.
Yeah, you just keep on piling it on. My second, and I think Matt might agree with this one, Kerrigan from StarCraft 2. I love this introduction of her being a hero, badass. She's I think if I remember correctly, she was like a sniper, one of the infiltrator snipers that you get to play as, kind of like a definitely hero character. Gets taken over by the Zerg and becomes one of your arch nemesis, and she's just rotten. Like, she's just her face. She's been taken over. She's all monstrous. But that I love that arc of being big hero to big villain, which they usually do with guys in games, and I loved that they did it with a woman. I think she's a fantastic character, and I wish I could go back and play those games and experience it again, which I think I could if I had a PC, because they re-released them on Game Pass, I think, for PC. Anyway, I would love to go experience her again.
Great pick, Malding. Of course, can't go wrong with little StarCraft. So my second pick, Aya Brea from Parasite Eve. I love that name. It's so funny, but this character is just so cool. I'm telling you, Parasite Eve has to get a remake, or somebody has to take that RPG formula with the dome meter. It is so genius, but it was so cool. She is just so pretty, and she's like punching monsters in the face that are just so grotesque. Totally. I just love like the bravery that is shown in these games, just facing up like monstrosities and just like winning the day. That game is stellar, and anyone who hasn't given it a shot, I highly recommend that one. But yeah, very, very cool character right there.
I remember playing it in college and really, really loving it. That's a great game. I wanted to also do a honorable mention for Celis, or Celis, however it's pronounced, in Final Fantasy VI. Also, she's great. I love her too. Big opera scene. That scene is scorched into my brain. It's so good.
Nice.
Yeah.
Good picks there.
Yeah.
That pretty much wraps up everything for this week. If you're watching on YouTube, please like and subscribe. If you're listening on a podcast, please tell your dad. And on behalf of Matthew Malding, Matt Lord, and myself, Dan Whitehill, thank you for joining us. And as always, good playing with you.
Good playing with you.
Good playing with you.